Good morning. Are you guys all awake? Let's go. Let's go. I hope y'all got some sleep last night. I don't know if many of you did. Some of you probably stayed up way too late watching fireworks. Some of you were setting them off, and some of you were up because your kids were awake. And that was us last night. Our girls were up most of the night because of the fireworks. But praise God, we're here this morning. I'm ready to be here. Man, it's so good to be here. I'm stoked. Yesterday, me and my wife got to just hang out with my family that's in town today. Shout out family, what up? And so we got to just spend some time celebrating the 4th and having some sparklers and throwing some little crackler things on the ground. And then that was it because my nephew and daughter did not like that. It was too loud. So, yeah, it was good. And so if you're joining us for the first time today, or it's been a while since you've been here, welcome. And we're so glad that you're here with us. My name is Trenton, and I have the privilege of serving on staff here at Northview under some incredible leaders. Pastor Dave and Alyssa, man, they might be watching online. If they are, hey guys, I just want to give honor where honor is due. There's some incredible leaders and friends that I've got to have the joy of serving under this last year. And look forward to continue doing that for years to come. And so before we jump in, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. Like Pastor Caleb said, some of you probably don't know me. Maybe some of you do. My wife and I are going to be celebrating 6 years of marriage here on the 18th of this month. Let's go. And so there's a picture of my family, or my wife, should be coming up on the screen, maybe. It's an older one. This is when we first started dating back in 2016, so this is a long time ago. And then we got married in 2020, and we've got another picture. This is our wedding day. We've probably changed a little bit. As we all do. We don't have a ton of pictures of us because all of our pictures consume our daughters. We actually met at Fine Arts at our church, so shout out Fine Arts, man, let's go. We have 3 beautiful daughters, Harvest, Violet, and Ember, and I've got a picture of them as well. I'm truly blessed with some amazing daughters and amazing wife, and so thank you guys for being here, supporting me today. I truly love them. My daughters are adorable. Most parents are going to say that about their kids, but my kids are the cutest. So, anyways, I grew up in Texas, but I've lived here in North Dakota for the last 13 years. I love being outdoors. If it's anything, whether it's hunting, working on a house, or playing sports, I'm all in. Almost a year ago, our family moved from Williston, where we served for 5 years as kids pastors, and I'm excited to be stepping into this new role of elementary pastor as Pastor Autumn transitions into being a full-time mom. So shout out Pastor Autumn for leading and stewarding our kids well. So yes, Pastor Autumn's incredible, and man, I'm stoked to be learning under her. She's been here for quite a while, and I get to just learn things from her, and so last week, Pastor Caleb kicked off our series called Stop by helping us understand why Sabbath matters. And before we jump into the how today, it's important to think and remember ourselves of the why. Because if we miss the why, the how just becomes another checklist. Pastor Caleb challenged us with 3 reasons we practice Sabbath. And so if you missed last week and you weren't here to hear from him, you missed out, but I'm going to give you some 3 things that he talked about. First, we Sabbath to practice the way of Jesus and become more like him. If our goal is to become more like Jesus, then we have to learn to live like Jesus. Throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus intentionally stepping away from the crowds to spend time with the Father. Sabbath isn't just about taking the day off, it's about following the rhythm that Jesus set. Second, we Sabbath so we can enjoy life to the full. We rest intentionally so we can work diligently. God never intended us to work nonstop, and we burn ourselves out. Sabbath is his gift that reminds us to slow down, delight in him, and enjoy the life he's given us. Third, we practice Sabbath as a witness to the world around us. Pastor Caleb asked a powerful question last week, and we have it up on the screen. It says, if Christians are just as exhausted, busy, and anxious, and burned out as everyone else, what makes following Jesus any different? Man, that was, when he shared that, I was like, whoa, that's just a mic drop right there, man. That's so good. And so one of the greatest witnesses we have isn't just what we say, it's how we live. And this will be a question that we will keep in front of us during the remainder of our collection. When we trust God enough to stop, rest, and delight in him, to show the world that hope isn't found in what we produce, but in who we belong to. As Pastor Caleb was preaching last week, one detail really stood out to me. And so if you have your Bible, I want to encourage you to turn to Exodus 20, 8 through 11. This is where God gives the fourth commandment and the command to remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And as we read this passage together, I want you to notice who God includes in this command. Exodus 20, 8 through 11, it says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you, your son, or your daughter, or your male servant, your female servant, your livestock, or the souvenir who is with your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Did you guys catch that? Every time God gives the command to observe the Sabbath, he doesn't just speak to parents. He includes children. You, your son, and your daughter. From the very beginning, God never intended Sabbath to be something parents practiced while the kids were simply along for the ride and playing out and doing whatever. His vision was for the entire family to learn this rhythm together. And that's where today's message begins. Because if that's why we Sabbath, then the question many of us are asking is, okay, but how? How do I Sabbath when I have babies? How do I Sabbath when I have toddlers? How do I Sabbath when I have elementary age kids? And how do we actually make this work as a family? And if you're in here, same question for me is like, all right, Lord, how do we Sabbath? So today, as we continue our series, Stop, we're going to wrestle with this question. How do we Sabbath when we have kids? Now, I know not everyone in the room has babies, toddlers, or elementary age kids. Some of you are single, some are empty nesters, some are grandparents, and some of you are students. But today, my focus is going to be on one question. How do we Sabbath with young kids? But I want you guys to catch this. I don't want you to tune out because you don't have kids. The principle applies to all of us. Over the next several weeks, our church is going to unpack what Sabbath looks like in every season of life. We'll talk about students, young adults, work, leadership, guarding your Sabbath, and making space for rest in a busy world. And like Pastor Caleb said, today, Pastor Debo is going to be sharing during second service, and Pastor Nathan will be talking about young adults. And so they're going to be kind of sharing different topics today. And so if you're here for first service, stay for second and third service. It's going to be good. I know it'll be a long day, but it's worth it, man. It's worth it. So, my thing before we fully jump in, all of us need to start doing, starting today, is schedule your Sabbath before your week schedules you. I'm going to say it one more time. Schedule your Sabbath before your week schedules you. Sabbath doesn't happen by accident. Jesus was intentional with his rhythms. He withdrew to pray. He rested. He made space to be with the Father. And if we don't intentionally make room for Sabbath, our calendars will gladly fill them up. So whether you're raising toddlers, working full-time, retired, or somewhere in between, ask yourself this week, where is my time with God? Where is my day to stop striving, enjoy his presence, and trust that he is God and I am not? So my first point today is Sabbath is meant for the whole family. Again, in Exodus 20, doesn't just command parents to Sabbath. It says you, your son, and your daughter. From the very beginning, God intended Sabbath to be a family rhythm. This is a huge observation because it answers the question before we even ask it. God never designed Sabbath as an adults-only practice. It's for the whole family, and family-focused is who we are as a church. Kids were never an interruption to Sabbath. They were always invited into it. Many parents say, I'll just Sabbath when my kids are older. I'll Sabbath when they're out of the house. I'll Sabbath when they're at their friend's house. And God says, no, bring them with you. Now, as you know, I have 3 daughters. And it can get kind of loud, a little messy, smelly, and well, a little chaotic in our house. And we have twins who need a lot of attention. And I mean a lot. As some of you might know, we had twins back in October, and they were six weeks premature, and so we were in the hospital for a month, and so we went through some challenges as a family, and how do we make this work? And so it took a lot of time on our end to be intentional with our 3-year-old, and so to focus on them. So as you can see, it was hard. It was a lot of time on a 3-year-old, a full-time job, and just life. So our Sabbath didn't look perfect compared to other people, is what I thought. And so my day off from church isn't a day off. It was a full-time dad mode, and as I like to call it, Papa mode. I like to be called Papa, not Dad. That's just on me. But anyways, in the moment, I didn't fully realize it because we were both sleep-deprived, and maybe we still are sleep-deprived. I remember saying, Lord, you know our hearts. I know he honored that, but I still found myself thinking we weren't really Sabbathing because it looked so different than before we had. And one of my good friends, Seth Taylor, was trying to explain everything. He's like, Trenton, you got to drop your arms. You got to shallow yourself out. You got to compress your irons. You got to hit up on your driver. And I was like, what? What do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. Then I watched him hit. Instead of him saying, hey, Trenton, you got to do this. There's no golf club behind me. You got to do this and this. And I was like, okay. And then he got the club and he goes, watch. And then I watched him. And I started watching other people, and suddenly it clicked. I started playing a lot better. I started to drop my arms. I started to shallow myself out. I started to compress my irons and hit up on my driver. And now I should be playing with Scotty Scheffler on the PGA Tour. I'm ready. I'm ready. Kids are always watching you. Kids are always watching you. Then they watch everything you do, everything you say, and how you act. They are little sponges, and they don't always soak up the good. The other day I said, I hate that it's going to rain when I'm golfing. The next thing I know, my oldest is walking around saying, I hate this. And I was like, oh, that sounds really bad coming from a toddler. And as a parent, I was just like, ugh. We teach our kids, and honestly, everyone around us, a lot more by what we do than by what we say. If you want your kids to know how to pray, how to read God's word, and how to spend time with him and slow down, then you have to show them, not just tell them. If they only see you being busy and never slowing down, what will they think adulthood is supposed to look like? Show them what it means to follow Jesus. In Deuteronomy 6:6-7, it says, these commands that I give you today are to be on your hearts, and press them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. We see that faith is taught in everyday life, not just through lectures. Parents, discipleship doesn't just happen in a classroom or at church. It happens around the dinner table, on the drive to school, while playing in the backyard, and before bed. If we look at Philippians 4:9, Paul also says, whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. Paul doesn't just say, what you've heard from me, he also says, what you've seen in me. In other words, they didn't just hear it, they saw it. Teach them the Bible. Teach them to pray. Teach them what it means to Sabbath. But more importantly, show them. Show them what it means to be a follower of Jesus. Thirdly, Sabbath isn't only about silence. It's also about slowing down with Jesus. Since I was a kid, I thought Sabbath meant sitting perfectly still, reading the Bible for 12 hours, and talking to only God. And honestly, a lot of you probably thought that, or maybe you still think the same thing. But in reality, Sabbath is about laying our work down. It's about resting from being in control. I'm going to say that one more time so you guys catch that. It's about resting from being in control. As parents, we often feel like we're responsible for everything. Sabbath reminds us that God is in control. He's running the show, not us. So set your phone down, respond to the email later, make that phone call tomorrow, rest with God, and enjoy his gifts and be present. Now you might be thinking, these are all great ideas, but have you been to our house? It's crazy, right? But what are some practical things that I can take to do with my family now? First, I would say don't jump straight into a 24-hour Sabbath. If you've ever practiced Sabbath before, it's best to take it one day at a time. And now, I know Pastor Mark's somewhere, but Mark's pretty big, pretty ripped guy, right? I would say. Now, if I went to the gym with Mark, I couldn't go in and lift what he does. Can I, right? All right? I can't go in and lift what Pastor Mark lifts. I would have to take some time. I would have to show up. I would have to practice. I would have to lift every day. I'd have to eat right. I'd have to do all these things. It takes consistency. And right now, I just don't have the consistency to go to the gym every single day. And I know Mark doesn't either, but he tries to. And so don't start off with the 24-hour Sabbath. Don't jump for the 500 pounds. Work your way to it. It takes time. It takes repetition. It takes consistency. And last week, Pastor Caleb challenged us to start with 2 hours. And today, I'm going to push y'all just a little bit more. Are you guys okay with that? Perfect. This week, let's try 4 hours. I know that sounds like a lot, but take 4 hours. This last week, I hope you all took the 2 hours. If you just started Sabbathing, I hope you took those 2 hours, and I hope it was good and intentional time. And so I'm proud of you for doing that, but now let's take it a little further. You went to the gym one time and you lift 20 pounds, and you went for a little bit, you did it. Now let's try 40, right? Let's try 4 hours. When you're sitting around the dinner table, slow down. Put your phone away and talk about your day. Go for a walk together as a family and enjoy God's creation. Read a Bible story together. If you guys are like, man, sitting down and just like reading a Bible story, it's kind of hard. We've got a kid over here and a kid over here, and they're there, and it's a lot. Well, there's a super cool TV show called Superbook. If you don't know what Superbook is, I would encourage you to look into it. Or VeggieTales, just the old classic, right? I grew up with VeggieTales, right? VeggieTales all the way. There's still some songs that we sing at church camp with the senior highs, like the senior hires, like the 12th graders. We're singing VeggieTales, and they love it. So VeggieTales is good. There are some awesome Bible shows for families and kids. So take that, put it in your back pocket, use it however you like. But talk through the miracles and stories being portrayed in those shows. Pray together. Worship together. Right? The other day, we kind of switch off sometimes putting our kids to bed, especially our oldest. And the other day, me and Harvest, just a couple days ago, we were in bed, and she's like, Papa, I want to read a story. And I was like, all right, I got you. So I bring out the kids' Bible, right? Kids' Bible all the way. And so I'm reading it, and she goes, what is this? And so I got a chance to talk to her about it. And then we read it, and then we read a little bit more, and then I was getting ready to put it away to go to bed, and she goes, Papa, can we read more? And I was like, yeah, we can. We could stay up all night reading this, right? And so she leaned in, and I continued. It was so good. And so model what it means to follow Jesus. None of these things are expensive. None of these things are difficult. They're simply intentional. These are some great first steps for your family and for you to start doing. And the biggest thing I want you to know today, though, is Sabbath isn't just slowing down. It's slowing down with Jesus. Okay? Sabbath isn't about slowing down. It's slowing down with Jesus. Sabbath isn't simply taking a day off from work. It's intentionally making more room for God than we normally do. It's spending unhurried time in His Word, in prayer, in worship, and even in silence. Learning to sit in His presence. If that's 5 minutes, if that's 10 minutes, if that's 15, if that's 30, whatever it looks like, take the time to be in His presence. Shut out the outside world. Focus on him. Tune into him. Plug yourself into him, right? If all we do is sleep, go for a walk, read a good book, spend time with family, or stay off our phones, those are good, right? They refresh us physically and emotionally. But if Jesus isn't at the center, we've simply just taken the day off. Sabbath is different because it reminds us that our souls find rest in him. They're not just resting from work. We're resting in the presence of God. We slow our bodies so our hearts can hear his voice. We quiet the noise of life so we can remember that he is God and we are not. In Psalms 46:10, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." Being still isn't just about stopping our activity. It's about turning our attention toward God. Jesus also invites us in Matthew 11:28 through 29. It says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Notice he doesn't say, "Hey, come to a vacation, come to a day off." He says, "Come to me." The greatest rest we'll ever experience isn't found in a calendar, it's found in a person. So let me leave you with this today. Sabbath isn't about escaping life. It's about abiding with Jesus. It's not just about resting from something. It's about resting in someone. Okay? Parents, this next part is especially for you. So many parents think my kids keep interrupting my Sabbath. But if you read the Gospels, kids interrupted Jesus constantly. They ran to him. They climbed on him. They needed his attention. And Jesus never treated children like distractions. He welcomed them. So, what if your kids aren't interrupting your Sabbath? What if they're actually a part of God's design for it? Right? What if it's actually a part of God's design? What if God is using them to teach you to slow down, be present, and delight in what really matters? That means if your Sabbath with little kids includes spilled milk, laughing, toys all over the house, and a bedtime Bible story, it doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't have to look quiet to be holy. It's about being with him, and you're setting the example of following Jesus and resting in him. Right? Again, Matthew 11, "Come to me and I will give you rest." When I first started thinking about Sabbath, I thought, again, 12 hours of silence, 12 hours of reading, 12 hours of where no one talked to me. Then we had kids, and I realized that's probably not happening. Jesus never asked me to create a perfect day. He invited me to himself. Sometimes slowing down with Jesus looks like reading scripture. Sometimes it's like praying with your kids. Sometimes it looks like taking a walk and thanking God for his creation. Sometimes it looks like laughing around the dinner table. Sometimes it looks like you're watching your kids play while your phone stays in your pocket because you're fully present. Whatever it looks like, the invitation is still the same. Come to me and I will give you rest. Church, Sabbath isn't only about silence. It's also about slowing down with Jesus. We have to slow down and plug into him. We can't just sit silently. We have to tune into him. It's about focusing on him. And when your kids see you slowing down with Jesus, they'll learn that following him isn't just another thing to do. It's the place where we will find true rest. As we close today, I want to invite our prayer team up and worship team as well. Maybe today you realize your family has been running at a pace that just isn't sustainable. Maybe your calendar has become so full that there's little room left for God or for one another. Maybe you're carrying guilt because Sabbath with kids has never looked the way you thought it should. Maybe you're comparing your family to someone else's, wondering if you're doing it wrong. Can I encourage you today? God isn't looking for perfection. He's inviting you into his presence. Maybe your prayer today is simply, Jesus, teach our family to rest in you, not to just take the day off, but to become the kind of family that delights in you together.